Namaste. Welcome to this edition of the Weekly Dialogues. Today I have a very special person for you. Savio Rodrigues was the editor of Goa Chronicle. He is known for his crusades, literally the crusades against the Catholic Church. He is a practicing Christian, a very devout one, but he keeps fighting against the corruption in the church. Welcome, Savio. How are you?
Namaste. I'm doing very good. Thank you, Sanjay, for asking.
As a practicing Christian, don't you feel some resistance within the family or within your community when you start fighting the church or the corruption in the church or some bad practices in the church?
Sanjay, to be honest, my family has been extremely supportive of my crusade against the evil within the church. They have not held me responsible or questioned me about my crusade because they have always believed that if I've taken up something, it would have been to do with corruption or an evil in society. So that's the confidence as a family we have with each other. My family comes from a very strong Catholic family. My parents have represented certain groups in the church. My nephew is somebody who was going to be a priest. He's currently under timeout to finally decide whether he wants to continue to be a priest. So we are actually very strong people of the Catholic faith, and the crusade that we had started against sexual abuse within the Catholic Church, within corruption within the Catholic Church in India, it's not come as a fight against the Catholic Church. It's come not a fight against the faith. It is something that we are fighting against an institution. So you see, I'm a journalist by profession, and if I fight for corruption within the government, that is my job because I want a better country. In much the same way, the fighting of the institution against the Catholic Church is because I believe the faith is something that is good. It is that institution that has diluted the message of that faith over a period of time. And that's really what this fight is all about. So when a priest or a bishop like Bishop Franco Mulakkal commits rape and is accused of rape and sodomy, then it is only my duty as a Catholic to take it up. But more importantly, as an Indian to take it up, an Indian Christian to take it up, so that the community at large is not abused because of the acts of few people, and that's really what this crusade is all about. Because as an Indian Christian, I'm a nationalist, and that is more important for me to save India more and to save the truth that lies in the Christian faith more than anything else. So that's what this fight is about.
Okay, so what one saw when your fight against Bishop Mulakkal was on, and also because of your fight, I think it played a very large contribution, that he was finally arrested, but he was very quickly bailed out. And I think we have had some other instances. There are a lot of other godmen who are still languishing in jail for much the similar offenses. But Bishop Mulakkal managed to get bailed out. And when he got bailed out, he got a hero's reception. So doesn't that mean that he still enjoys a lot of support within the community? And maybe your position is somewhat weaker in comparison to the larger support that he enjoys within the community. We saw him being taken in processions and being fitted and being garlanded and all kind of celebrations being made. What does that suggest to you?
Well, to be very honest, Sanjay, if you were to compare the support that Bishop Franco Mulakkal has vis-a-vis the support that Savio Rodrigues or the nuns who are fighting the case of the other priests that are supporting the nuns have, as far as the community is concerned, Bishop Franco Mulakkal will of course have more power than us. That is because people in the Christian faith look up to the religious leaders, and they believe, or they are led to believe, that they can do no wrong. But having said that, we cannot shy away from what the truth is and what our responsibilities as citizens and people of a particular faith are. We have to fight it out. We have to get people to understand that the faith is separate from the institution, and the institution has got evil people in it. And that is really what this fight is all about. So of course we are weak. I understand that. I remember the attacks I faced, through messages, through a fatwa poster that came where people wanted to blacken my face out. And this was even before Bishop Franco Mulakkal. It was during the Archbishop's letter, which I wrote to the Archbishop of Delhi. You see, that's the weakness of the Catholic community, that they are completely entrenched into the views of the leader, and they are not willing to accept that the leader on the top, the religious leader, is capable of committing a crime. But it will take time, and that is what a reformation is all about. A reformation is not something that's going to happen overnight. But I can absorb all their hate. My questions to most of the Christians that raise questions to what I do is, can they absorb the truth of what I'm saying? Because it is the truth that really matters in this. So if a child or a nun is sexually abused by a priest or a bishop, are you telling me to keep quiet over a crime? That's not going to happen.
Very good. I think you've been fighting with great fortitude, and you had the support of all nationalists of all hues, from all walks of life and from every religion. That's very well. I just want to focus on another important issue, and that is a fundamental reform in the Catholic Church. Now, I think Catholic Church remains one of the few churches that stresses on this phenomenon of celibacy. I think, correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, that
You're
the
right.
Anglican Church permits marriage among the priests, and so do most evangelical churches.
Yes.
You think that one of the fundamental reforms that could happen would be to allow priests to actually get married and not carry out this sham all the time, that of the sham of celibacy. What do you say to that?
Okay. The aspect of celibacy that exists in the Catholic Church is something that is voluntarily accepted by the Catholic Church, by the people who ordain themselves to become priests and are ordained as priests. Is it something that needs to be relooked at? Yes, if at any stage there is a belief within the larger section of priests that maybe they would be able to be better priests if they are married, then I think the Catholic Church needs to relook at it. If one thinks that they need to be married because of the rise of sexual abuse cases in the Catholic Church in the world, I think sexual abuse and marriage has got nothing to do. They're not correlated at all. Sexual abuse is a deviation of the mind. It is an act of power. So when a priest who's 45 years or 50 years old, as in the Pennsylvania case, rapes a child who's 1 year old, I'm not able to understand what is the sexual gratification that the priest has got by raping a 1 year old child. So celibacy and sexual abuse are not connected. Celibacy can be relooked at if a larger aspect of the priest collegium, as you would call it, decides that maybe they could be better priests and better serve the people by being married. But that has got no link to the sexual abuse cases that are there, whether they are raping nuns or whether they are raping children. That's a deviation of the mind. So I think it is important for the Catholic Church to first accept that there is an evil in society, and that society is within the church itself. Now, if it was a stray off case, say in India, or 1 or 2 cases in America, or 1 or 2 cases in UK or Germany, this is a global phenomenon that's been happening across the world, not only in one country. So you have sexual abuse cases within the Catholic Church happening all across, wherever there is a Catholic Church hold. Yet the cover-up mechanism of the Catholic Church across the world is identical. So the cover-up that was used for Bishop Franco Mulakkal's case, the intimidation that were used on the victims, in this case the nuns, is identical to a case that you would have had in America, is identical to the case that you would have had in Australia. So there appears to be a very, very a detailed modus operandi that the Catholic Church follows in order to cover up sexual abuse cases. And when my colleague was in Rome last year during the Pope Summit on sexual abuse, we highlighted this fact. And sexual abuse has been happening rampant. We have taken up the issue of the Loyola College in Chennai as well, where we had raised up the issue with the Jesuit Curia in Rome. And they did not believe us at the first stage. Then we pursued it. And then they sent investigators to investigate the problems of the diocese. And right now, the diocese is under tremendous pressure to change their ways, because you see, harassment is not only about the nuns or the kids. It's also people that work in the church organization that harass the other people for sexual gratification. And that's the problem. The problem is in the institution. So when the Pope makes out a statement saying that, and he confirmed it, that priests and bishops are raping nuns, in a statement that he made just before the summit in 2019, which means there is an acceptance of an evil. By accepting the evil and not doing anything about it at an institutional level is where the Catholic Church is going wrong. And that would be, as we go ahead, it will be one of the main reasons why people will leave the Catholic faith and the Christian faith, because people today are more aware than what they were 20, 30 years ago, because people today will not tolerate sexual abuses. You might have blind people who will support Bishop Franco Mulakkal, but in reality, the protests that happened in Kerala were from Christians itself, not from people outside the Christian community. So the Christian community is waking up. It will take time, but the truth has a way of reaching people, and reformation in any form will touch people.
Okay, so this is about the Catholic Church. And do you also see this phenomenon in other churches?
Well, okay. Sanjay, we had done a study from 2014 right up till 2019, the 5 years of the first Modi government. This was right up till September 1st, 2019. Okay. In which we found 110 cases registered against pastors, priests, bishops, cardinals of the Christian faith in India. Out of the 110 odd cases that were there, 88 were sexual abuse cases. Out of the 88 sexual abuse cases, the average age of the victim was 11 years old. In most of the cases, 55 cases out of the 88 cases, the victim was a minor, age 11. 37 cases were from the Catholic Church. The remaining were from the other denominations. That's the Anglicans, the Lutherans, the Evangelicals, the believers, different people having different crimes committed, belonging to different sects or denominations of the Christian faith. So it is not a phenomenon only with the Catholic Church. It's a phenomenon that is everywhere within certain aspects of the Christian faith. It is a phenomenon that exists in other religions as well. But the reason I chose to focus on the Catholic Church is because I come from that faith. If I cannot stand against the wrong on my faith, being the journalist that I am, then I can't point out fingers when it goes wrong in other faith. You see, that's the logic. I have to clean my house first in order for me to pick up an issue with somebody else. Let's say there is a Muslim gentleman who's a priest and he commits rape, and if I'm not able to, and I raise that issue up, and somebody turns back to me and says, but Savio, you never touched an issue with regards to the priest in the Catholic Church. That's not fair then. So you take it up holistically. You clean your house first, then you start looking at the other cases that are around, which we will. That is what the NGO that I have will be doing in a short while. So Hail Mary Foundation, which we have, and which is based on the movie that we are doing. I don't know if you're aware, but we are doing the first movie on the chronicles of the sexual abuse cases in India. Okay. It is a documentary film. Okay, it's called Hail Mary. Okay. And we were to wrap up our production in the month of April. But then, of course, we got locked down because of the coronavirus. But I think we would extend it by another 6 months to 8 months. So by early next year, hopefully, we will be able to release that movie internationally, because that's our main aim. And it chronicles the entire magnitude of sexual abuse within the Catholic Church in India. That is what the chronicling is. So why am I doing that? I am doing that to open up the minds of the Christian and the Catholics in India that, hey, listen, there is something wrong in the institution, and it is our moral and ethical responsibility to stand up for what is wrong. If we can stand up as journalists for what is wrong within the government, what is wrong within the society, then we must stand up for what is wrong within our faith, within the institution that professes our faith. And that is the reason why this entire effort is. So I've been getting a lot of hate messages based on the movies. When we put out the poster, why are you doing this? This is an internal matter. Nothing is an internal matter. When those nuns are being targeted by senior leaders in the church, has anybody senior enough in the church hierarchy in India or outside of India stood for them? Everyone tells me that, okay, listen, it is an internal matter between Bishop Franco Mulakkal and the nun. Why did you blow up the issue? And did I have a choice? Did the nuns have a choice? You are expecting us to keep quiet when a nun was sodomized 13 times by the bishop, and we have to keep quiet because the bishop is a senior leader of the church? He has lost the position of being a senior leader of the church when you commit such an atrocity and such a crime. That's not your normal human behavior. That's demonic behavior. That's diabolic behavior. You cannot continue to remain to be a bishop when you sodomize a nun 13 times. The church, Catholic Church, might protect them, but in my eyes and in the eyes of many right-minded Christians, it is wrong. And wrong has to be called out. Wrong has to be taken to the court of law, and justice must be served.
That's a very conscientious position you've taken, Savio. My compliments to you for that. I also find that the statistics that you put out, that kind of supports your position that celibacy has very little to do with this deviant behavior. And
Sanjay, may I interrupt 1 second?
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Let me give you some very interesting insight. When I was studying the Pennsylvanian cases, there were about 600 odd cases. There was this one case where there were 4 victims who were 1 year old. Okay.
Oh my God.
And the priest was somewhere around 44, 45 years of age. The priest who committed the crime. Now, to become a priest, Sanjay, you go through a very long education process. Okay. So you would expect, I'm not saying that education, an educated person cannot be a deviant person, but you would expect some ethical, some moral upbringing to be within you. You're not just somebody who's like frustrated with society, frustrated with life, and then you go on and commit a crime of sexual abuse. You've arrived after studying in some of the best colleges in the world. You arrive at that position of religious conviction. That's why you're there. And then you rape a 1-year-old child. Then you rape kids that are as old as 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. Look at the cases. And the most number of cases in the world are boys.
Okay.
Can those people talk? Can those kids define their trauma? You have destroyed the God in them, Sanjay. God is the only resource of hope to a human in their worst crisis. It keeps them sane. That is the idea of God. Nobody knows whether God exists or not. But the idea of God keeps you sane. It keeps you moral. It keeps you ethical. By a man of God, which is a priest in this case, raping a child, you have destroyed the very God that this person looks up to, because he sees you as a representative of God.
Right.
And that is a crime that cannot be forgiven. Even
Absolutely.
God, if God comes down and forgives that crime, I will not forgive that crime. Because none of us has the right to do it. It's only the victim.
I can understand your passion against this crime, Savio. That's a very good position to take, and a very conscientious position, a very noble position to take, as I might say, because you know that you are courting trouble, you're courting big people, you're fighting big people. So definitely you would face a lot of even harassment. Of course, you are a journalist, so you're a fighter anyway, though most of the journalists these days are not, but you are still in that old league of journalism. Now, also, not only the corruption in the church, I read a statement from you where you almost seem to challenge the theology, the very Christian theology you seem to challenge, when you said that if a man cannot go to heaven if he does not believe in the Christian God, then I refuse to believe in that God, or something to that effect.
Correct.
That is a direct challenge to the Christian theology. So you might be forgiven by people for asking for reforms in the church, but would you be forgiven by the clergy for challenging the very life and blood, which is the theology?
Sanjay, let me explain to you what my parents taught me about the Christian faith and where this belief system of mine comes in. When we were young, and my parents, and it came from my grandparents as well, when we were young, we were always told that you have to imitate the life of Jesus, which is not what the church institution necessarily falls within in terms of, you know, the dogmas, the practices, the rituals. I'm talking about a life of truth, a life of simplicity, and life of standing up for what is right and accepting that God is involved in creation and he's created the whole world in his image and his likeness, which means that I, as Savio Rodrigues, and you, as Sanjay, are the creation of the same God. Okay? If you and I are creation of the same God, then where is the distinguishment between us as sons and daughters of the same God if our faith is different? Because we believe that God had a hand in creation and his son Jesus had a hand in creation, right? So to me, if a Hindu believes in his religion, if a Muslim believes in his religion, and a Christian believes in religion, it is not the dogma and the rituals that define whether you're going to heaven. It is the acts of humanity that define whether you're going to be in heaven or whether you're going to be in hell, or whether heaven or hell actually exists. It's just a phenomenon created. The point is this: your actions have to be godlike. That is really what it is. So what does it mean to have godlike actions? I'll give you an example. John is a Christian. He's 50 years of age. He's married. He has 2 kids. Okay. He comes home every night drunk. He beats his wife up. He abuses his kids. And the next day he goes to church. He attends mass. He takes Holy Communion. He comes back. He abuses his wife. He abuses his kids. And he beats them up. That is John the Christian. Now you have Ram. Okay. Ram goes to a temple. Ram is a poor man. Ram does not drink. Ram does not smoke. Ram does not abuse his wife. Ram works very hard for his children. In the eyes of God, whoever you want to call that God, who is doing the actions and the acts of God? And that is the way I define religion, because religion is purely dogmatic. You have to rise above religion and look at the spirituality behind it, because at the end of the day, you take out the garb of religion and you stand naked. The only thing that connects you and me is that we are humans, that our humanity connects us. The soul within us connects us. And that is Sanatan Dharma. That is exactly what this world was all about. It was never about religion. It was about Sanatan Dharma, about respecting God, who is the creator, and respecting his creation, that is people, nature, animals. And if the Catholic Church thinks that this is against the teachings of Jesus, they need to go back and read the Bible. Because Jesus boiled down the entire thing in just 2 commandments: love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. Which means that entire Bible comes down to just these 2 words. None of the others make any importance to my life. I cannot love another person if I don't love myself the way I am: black, fat, blind, coming in poor, being a Christian, born in a poor family. If I don't love myself for what I am, I cannot love somebody else, and I cannot love this creation. So the church needs to realize that in today's day and age, humanity is the most important thing in life, and that is really what the message of Jesus was. If you go by the Bible, that is really what his message was. You know, you can debate on lot of aspects of whether Jesus was here, not there. You know, I don't get into that. All I'm saying is religion is dogmatic and ritualistic. You have to rise above and be a spiritualist, which is understand that Sanatan Dharma is what drives this world, and what drives humanity. And once you are on that path, nothing else matters. That's the path I am on.
Okay, that's very interesting. But according to me, what you're saying is bordering on heresy. Because
Well,
my
Sanjay,
understanding,
it
because
might be.
I have done comparative religion in fair amount of depth. I have even written on it. Uh, One series I wrote, "All Religions Are Not the Same," actually very popular. And when I saw religions are not the same, of course, I look at their essentials. What is defined as the essential principles according to our own constitution, the essentiality principle. And the in the Christian faith, the Old Testaments, of course, are there, but the New Testaments, the apostles, they are all very important. And
Agreed.
what you say that Sanatan Dharma, of course, in Sanatan Dharma, there is a great inclusivity principle. They not only treat all the human beings, but the entire cosmos, all creation, including what is called Jada and Chetan, the animate and inanimate, all that is regarded as the same. Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu, that I am the same in all beings.
All.
But that's not the Christian faith as I understand, because later saints, once the Christian ecumenical councils were finished with their job, Christianity emerged as a religion which had to go by the word of God. I think it's in the Gospel of John that the word was God, and
Correct.
whatever God has commanded through the Gospels and through these saints is
No, Sanjay,
the
let me correct
religion.
you on. No, let me correct you on that.
Yeah, let me finish.
On,
Let me finish. And those commandments have to be followed. If you do not follow those commandments, you end up as being heretic, and you earn the wrath of God. There's also the concept of wrath of God, especially in the Old Testament. Then you have the concept of what is called linear time. And in linear time, the world is finite, and ultimately you all end up in eternal hell or eternal heaven. And if you do not follow the New Testament, then you are going to end up in eternal hell. so, so this is exactly what the Gospels teach, and you're going against the Gospels.
actually, there is a lot of difference in what the Gospels actually teach. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because in Dubai, when I was growing up, I was a catechism teacher myself. Okay,
Okay.
and so the teachings that I did impart to the young students at that time, when they were very young, was to find God in everything in life. Okay, you got to differentiate between what is the Catholic Church and what has it got to do with the Christian faith. The Catholic Church really came into existence 800 years after the, uh, the crucifixion of Jesus, as some aspects of the Christian faith will tell you. So for 800 years, there was a belief on what would be considered to be the teachings of Jesus that flourished. The apostles took them to some places. But after 800 years, they came together and they had this ecumenical council, the Nicene Council, which they brought together, okay, and then decided on the books that could be the part of the gospel, claiming to be inspired by the Spirit of God, to put all these gospels together. There were lots of books that written at that time. Reportedly, Jesus was somebody who was very popular, and his apostles became even more popular across the world. So the Catholic Church at that time, which was Rome, the synergies between the government and religion is what happened at Rome. So that's
Yes.
when the Catholic Church became more political, because they were really gaining political mileage across the world, including Rome. And Rome was a power center at that time. So you had the Bible being formed by a decision of the people in this Nicene Council. Okay, for whatever reasons that those gospels were selected, and people came out with their dogmas, their canon laws, their text. I don't debate on that at all. because every institution has a right to bring its own constitution. Okay. The point is this: in that entire Bible that is there, you pick up the most relevant thing that touches your heart and changes you to become a better person. Because the Bible has a place where it talks about picking up the swords, cutting off the ears. There are violent aspects in the Bible as well, in the Old Testament and as well as the New Testament, in some aspects. But that doesn't mean a Christian is supposed to do that. These are things you need to understand, that at the end of the day, what is God really all about? Is God structured or limited to a religion, or does God rise above all this? And that's really my part. So if the Catholic Church thinks it's heresy, well, they're most welcome to think that. But all I know is that I'm only following what I'm hearing from my meditation on what Jesus actually taught. So either you blame Jesus for that, and in my discussions and my meditations, the revelations that I see, or you blame yourself, because I'm not going to take a blame for that. I'm walking the path of spirituality. You don't like it, that's your problem. You want to excommunicate me, that is your problem. You cannot take the Jesus away from me, no. You cannot take my faith. You can do everything else, and you're most welcome to do within your right. I will do what my faith and spirituality asks me to do. That's all.
Why can't we have an Indian church? All the churches seem to have their origins abroad. They are American churches, they're Anglican churches, and they're Roman churches. Why isn't there an Indian church?
The first problem with the Catholic Church in India and the Catholic Church in many of the developing countries, okay, is that the bishops, the cardinals only report to Vatican. They are a representative of the Vatican, and that is why they will report and they will have loyalty to the Vatican. Of course, some of them have loyalty to the country. There's no doubt on some of them. There are major number of these bishops and priests that show their loyalty to the Vatican. The Vatican law, in my understanding, cannot apply to Indian law. So when the matters relating to the Catholic Church, the canon laws, which are meant for running the institution of the Catholic Church, does not supersede the laws of India. That is categorically clear in my head, which means that if a bishop has committed rape or a priest has committed rape, then the Catholic Church cannot indulge in an inquiry. What the Catholic Church has to do is have the courage to go to the police station with the victims and file a complaint against that priest. In the Bishop Franco case, to derail the case, the Catholic Church and the Vatican made a statement that they were going to do a probe. Did that probe ever get initiated? The answer is no, it did not. So this canon law that the Catholic Church fights within has no relevance to the Indian law. The Indian law supersedes it. It is time for the Catholics in India and the Christians in India to understand that Indians come first, then your religion comes. There have been many Christians who have contributed to the nation building aspects of India, and they have been respected and honored for that. In today's time, with the workings of some members of the Catholic Church, including the leaders, there is an attempt to divert the mind of the Christians and the minorities in particular towards anti-national activities which do not work towards nation building, just because they feel or perceive that the government at this point of time is more Hindu-centric than they are Christian or Muslim-centric. And that is a fallacy, because I think Narendra Modi government has shown explicitly that it cares more for the minority than it does for the majority in their decisions. So the minorities in India, mostly the Catholics, do not need to fear the BJP-led government, because those 110 cases I spoke about that happened in the Catholic Church, and when the bishops are talking Christians are in danger, happened during the Narendra Modi government, which we had got data, and the Narendra Modi government has not yet done anything as far as the crimes by the priests, bishops and pastors are concerned. They have not even uttered a statement of condemnation. And I don't expect them to. So that's asking too much. I don't expect them to do that. But the point of the matter is this, that today, Indian Christians will rise up in India. You mark my words. In the next 3 to 4 years, to maximum 10 years, Indian Christians will rise up in India, because inside every Indian, irrespective of Christian, Hindu, or Muslim, the blood of India runs. The blood of Bharat Mata runs in them. And as long as you are a nationalist, your religion is important, but it does not cloud your mind. You put nation always first, you will put religion side by side. There will be no clouding of the mind. So today, when people like me take a stand, when the sisters who are fighting against Bishop Franco take a stand, when the 37 priests who are fighting against Bishop William take a stand, it is showing that the Catholic faith is moving towards reformation. It is moving towards nationalism, and there is a need for an Indian church where the rights, you can follow your faith, but the loyalty lies with India and not with Vatican. That is bound to happen at some point of time. It will take time. It has happened in China.
It has happened.
China controls. It will happen in India as well. And it will not be driven by the Hindus or the Muslims. It will be driven by the Catholics themselves, because they will get so frustrated about the corruption and the sexual abuse cases. The sexual abuse cases in India, what we brought out, is just the tip of the iceberg, Sanjay. I have no way of finding out more, because it depends on a mechanism where people can complain. And that was my petition to Narendra Modi, to ask him to have a dialogue with the Christian denomination and the leaders to set up a prevention detection mechanism at a parish level, at an institution level, so people can have confidence that even if the Catholic Church is not going to stand with you on a sexual abuse case by a priest, at least the government will stand by you, because it has committed to the people that it will stand up for them. And that is why there was a petition that I made to Prime Minister Modi to get him to meet with the leaders of the Catholic Church to set up a prevention detection mechanism at a parish level, just like you would have the Vishaka judgment, where nuns and priests could be protected. People working in a corporate society can be protected. Nun and priests can also be protected, because they come under salaries. They get salaries. They work like a company, like an institution. So to me, the reform that we are working for is to reform the institution itself, to get them to understand that the people are watching, the people are listening. Just because you garland Bishop Franco Mulakkal does not mean the Catholic faith is with the rapist. The same Catholic faith will come out in large numbers when more truth about Bishop Franco Mulakkal comes out. And more
Thank
rape.
you, Sir Savio. I think we are now out of time already, and you have explained all these issues in a most articulate manner. Thank you very much. Wonderfully put, and best of luck to you to have an Indian church soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.